each day has a trouble of its own.
True that.
Let's talk about that. Oh, long lead in.
Talk about the Lord. Yeah.
So, every day has its trouble. Let's talk about that. So, yesterday, trouble. Okay? So, you always have that one or two kids that, just, whew. And then you have...
Plus, it's just Monday yesterday.
Well, plus it was just Monday, yeah.
There's trouble right there.
And then you get surprised by a couple things through your email. And then you plan like this whole thing that you're going to do, and it doesn't get done because people are like, hey, come up. No, over here. And you get to, not that that's bad, it's just, I didn't get what I wanted to get done yesterday. Now I got to push it back today. And then, news comes down the pike of national news, local news, and you're like, oh, that's trouble. So each day has its trouble of its own. We really don't, yes, we look forward to the next day, but really, should we? I mean, we should be probably focusing on the present. If we look in the past too much, we kind of stay there and we get stuck and we complain and we compare everything to the past. If we always think of the future, we can't control that. Only God knows the future, and we tend to mess it up, and we try to plan something, and Murphy's Law is if you try to plan it, it's not going to succeed. Yes, we need to prepare and plan, but don't live in the future, because then you're going to, the present's not going to be really good. You're just going to keep going and going and going and miss the present. So I would like to live in the present. Since it's called present, it's a gift.
It's a present.
Yeah, it's a present.
Oh my gosh.
So, as we live in the present, then we worry less. If we live in the past, we worry about all the things we've done and what they meant to people, and if it's wrong, then we get in this spiral of depression, and then we keep going and going. If we think about the future,
Still worried.
it's still worry. So both ways you're going to go, you're still going to worry. Now, I'm not saying not remember the past, because we do remember the past to hopefully help our mistakes, that we can learn from them. And I'm not saying that we don't look towards the future, because there's a lot of hope in there. But if we're stuck in one or the other, we kind of worry too much. And so if we stay in the present, now, who would have thought this? Well, Jesus did. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. You need to go back and look at that. It's really good stuff, because it really is practical, and how you react to other people. It has nothing to do with the other people. It has everything to do with you and how you have the heart for God and react towards other people. And so this is really cool. After this whole huge chapter of not worrying, not doing this, hey, I got this under control. Look, I've given the birds their food. The lilies of the, not the lilies, the flowers of the field, they come up, they wither, and nobody has to worry. The animal kingdom doesn't have to worry, and the grass and the flowers don't have to worry. What more does God give us, because he loves us? We're humans. We're made in the image of God. And so he says this right at the end of this chapter. Therefore, since all this is true, since we're more than birds, we're more than the animal kingdom, we're more than the grass of the fields, he says this. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Okay? That means you can't control it, so just trust in me. And then he says this. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Now, I wonder what the people sitting there, the Gentiles, the Jews, the Samaritans, I wonder what they were thinking. The interesting thing about Samaritans is that they were Jewish also. Like, they had the Torah. They were waiting for the Messiah. They had somewhat of a different translation, but they were still Jewish. So the Jewish people and the Samaritans were neighbors, yet both of them hated each other. And so here's this Gentiles, Samaritans, and Jewish people listening to Jesus's Sermon on the Mount, and he says this. And I wonder what they were thinking. Like the Samaritans were like, oh, well, yeah, there's enough trouble all the time because we have to go to a different mountain to a different temple, a different mountain to praise God, and the Gentiles were like, well, yeah, the Jews doesn't really, help us, and because we're not in the Torah. And then the Jews were like, well, we're God's chosen people and don't have to, we don't like the other two groups. And they interfight and all kinds of stuff. And I bet their children played together. I bet their children were like, whatever. But it was the parents and the nation. And so they worried about everything. And here's God saying, hey, look, each day has enough worry of its own. So I think the whole point is trust in Jesus. Live in the present. That's my challenge for you today. I love you. Jesus loves you too. You have a great, what is it? Tuesday. Man, I can't even remember the days.
It's okay.
All right. Love you. Bye.
You went off on a tangent. What time is it?